What is up, my people? Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another match preview here on the Cup Chasers. That's right, the Arsenal hosting Fulham at the Emirates Stadium, and it's gonna be a nervy one, I would imagine. It's gonna be a fun one. It's definitely a big one, I'll give you that, because we absolutely unequivocally have to win, have to get this one over the line. It's gonna be it should be an easy game according to the history, according to Fulham's ridiculously horrendous record at the Emirates Stadium. But obviously, as Nez loves to say, the game is not played on paper, and we got a different set of circumstances than we've had before, where where Fulham's coming to the Emirates, and so of course it's definitely going to be a very difficult game. So go ahead and smash up the likes on your way in, people. Let's get comfortable here. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, cup of tea, something as we get going on this one. I got my coffee here. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Of course, if you are new, it would be an absolute honor and a privilege to welcome you to the channel. And of course, get that notification bell on, people, share it across socials, all that good stuff. All right out the rip, where I want to start this one is that we got to have our best foot forward. We have to play our best team, our best players, and I want to see Bukayo Saka, Eberechi, and Victor Gyökeres across the front. I know, we absolutely have to figure out, how to do the rotation, how to get the minutes right, of course, because of the injuries. I'm not too sure. Obviously, we normally record before the press conference, so I'm not too sure about Kai Havertz or Jurrien Timber. Hopefully, they can both be back and at least available to maybe be on the bench. I really need, and if we're not available to be on the bench, Jurrien Timber, I need Mascara to start. I need Mascara to start over Ben White. Like I'm really done with the Ben White stuff. And I think that we absolutely, cannot afford against Harry Wilson, against the likes of, well, according to my research here, I think Iwobi's out. But so it might be who will it be out on the left? Not sure. It might be Smith Rowe on the left, actually, to be honest with you. So we need Mascara at the right back position. Ben White definitely got abused by Adam Lookman. And of course, yes, it's Adam Lookman. What's up, Lumen? Hope you're well. Hope you are well. And of course, yes, I understand that Adam Lookman is not playing for Fulham, and so we might see Ben White, but who knows what Arteta's going to do. I really don't want to see Ben White, but I've been saying that for a few games now, and there he is anyway. As we know, Arteta doesn't do what I tell him to, doesn't accept my phone calls. It's time you beat Fulham, Jake. Well, I'll tell you this, Lumen. I'll tell you this. Fulham has never, ever won away at Arsenal. Not at Highbury, not at the Emirates. They've never won at Arsenal away. So that's going in our favor, That's not to say that it's going to be, an easy ride or that they're going to roll over. I know they like to fly kites when the season's over in practice. So I'm hoping that they're flying some mental kites on Saturday and we can rack up some goals, because we definitely need that. But it's hard to judge because you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know if they actually are going to be up for it, if they're going to be, what they're going to be doing, if they're going to be goofing off in practice like we've seen them do before. Looking at the table, they're, not really, they could go on a push for Europe, I guess, if they were in for it, and that could definitely make it difficult for us. But, they're kind of at that point in the season where, like, they would have to win every game. They would have to really put the effort in for the last 4 games just to maybe make Europa League. So I don't know if they're going to do that. They historically are not the team that does that, and so I'm hoping Maybe this could go in our favor, but as Nez says, everyone is probably going to get up to try and not let us win the league, to try and put a sting in the tail. And of course, I think this is a good opportunity, especially with Man City traveling to Everton on Monday. Is going to be an absolute this will be a more difficult game for them. So I think we need to definitely work hard. After Let's Go draw, we'll have the confidence to beat Fulham. Yeah, I think we'll definitely have the confidence. I'm just wondering about the rotation, wondering about the legs. Since Eze and Saka did not start the game at the weekend or at versus Atletico, I'm really hoping they start this one. And then, Arteta does, something he normally doesn't do. And we get up early, maybe 1 or 2 goals. And then in the 60th minute, we can bring on everybody. We can maybe pull Gyökeres and bring on Jesus again, because that looks like what's going to be happening. No, I'm not excited about that. I don't think, Jesus really gave us much when he came in versus Atletico, and if Havertz is back, then yeah, that should be our substitute instead of Jesus for me, if he's able to go and he can come in and finish the game. But yeah, I think we need to start with our strongest squad here. Again, Zubamendi went 90, Rice went 90, so I'm sure they're shattered. But if we just get a lead, if we just get up and get a lead in that game, Fulham will be up for it as long as the game's in the balance, right? So if we score 3 goals in the first half, though, if we score 2 goals in the first half, I'm not really certain that Fulham are going to exert the comeback power to really, make us work when we're already up. I feel like if we can really kind of dispirit them with a couple of early goals, then we can dictate how the flow of the game. We can dictate when we make substitutions and still be comfortable in the game. I mean, what did Miles Lewis-Skelly ever do to Arteta? I know he hasn't been good enough, and I've said he hasn't been good enough at the left back position, but when we're running on fumes in that midfield and you don't want to play Zubamendi, Norgard over Zubamendi, maybe, once we're up 3-0 versus Fulham, you could put Lewis-Skelly in the midfield, because, it looked like we were kind of running out of ideas now that Marino is not in there, for ways to give Zubi some rest, because I don't know if he's going to be able to go 90 versus Atletico, 90 versus Fulham, and then 90 versus Atletico again. And I definitely think that we have to keep an eye on that. And of course, it's all down to Arteta. It's all 100% on Arteta, how he does things, how he rotates. Personally, I do think we need Christian Mosquera, but if Mosquera starts, I do think if Timber still isn't back, because I don't really trust anything they say about when Timber is going to be back, when he's not going to be back, because I just don't know. Like, the wishy-washy answers that Arteta gives about injuries, Timber was supposed to be back for the game in Spain. So is he back for this one? Maybe. If he is, then I need him to get minutes. I need him to get on the pitch. I need him to maybe we'll play Mosquera, for 60, and then let Timber come on for the last 30, get some minutes in his legs so that he can be, available to play on Tuesday. Quick turnaround, of course. So the way Arteta, rotates the squad, figures out who gets minutes, who doesn't, who rests, however he figures out, it's going to be so important in these next. It's going to be so important in these next 2 games. I personally am advocating for playing your best players, and getting ahead of Fulham, getting up on Fulham, and then bringing in the finishers, as Arteta calls them, to get us over the line in the end. And honestly, I think that this is a great opportunity. It matches up well for us, especially in the middle of the park. I think that we can definitely press them high, like we're really good at, and cause them to make turnovers, cause them to hit the ball long. They are more than willing to try to fight Raul Jimenez. So that's going to be one of the key matchups. Up top, of course, is going to be how we deal with Jimenez. I like Raul Jimenez, honestly, as a forward. I think he's a good target man. I think he's one of those that's really annoying. to deal with as a defensive pair, Saliba and Gabriel back there, but they normally tend to do well against him. And so again, we make them hit it long and we win the second balls. And I think, we can have a lot of control in this game. I think that's probably one of the reasons Odegaard came off and Arteta didn't put Eze and Odegaard in the same team versus Atletico. I think he was, hoping to give Odegaard enough of a rest so that he can do the same thing in this game and then do the same thing in the second leg on Tuesday. But again, I would advocate for having them both play in the same team as we have been all season and, scoring some early goals and then being able to, to sit back a little bit and just soak up pressure, maybe get an extra one on the break after we're already up and cruise. And of course, that's an ideal situation. And as we know, it's the Premier League, it's a title race, it's the run in. Nothing is that simple, but I think we showed a little bit better level of performance versus Atletico. I think we showed that when we're pressed, hustled, and harried like Atletico were doing, that we can play through the lines. We've been able to do that well a lot this season. And I think that versus Fulham, I think we're going to be able to do that a lot as well. When you play through Fulham's first initial press, they tend to back off once you show that you can beat it. I've seen it a number of times in Fulham games this season where they'll press high in the beginning and they'll get beat a couple of times through the lines, and then their line will just kind of drop, and it'll just kind of gradually drop and drop. And that suits us, because obviously what we're going to see in this game from Arteta is more of the same, a slow grind and build up to try to kind of, grind them into submission. And hey, normally, the game plan, obviously, get an early goal and then grind it down until we get another goal. And then that's kind of how Arteta's mind works, I feel like. So I would honestly like to see like a blitz right out the rip. 5-10 minutes, really, really put them under pressure and get an early goal, which would really, really calm the crowd down. I feel like I've seen some things in the media this week about how, normally when a team is going for a title, when teams are trying to win the Champions League, the crowd is absolutely incredible. I mean, just look at the crowd on Wednesday night. They legitimately forced the referee to make a wrong decision, with their screaming, and we need to be that loud for every game for the rest of the season. Now, of course, I'm not there. I'm not in England. I don't get to go to the stadium. But I've heard from, different sources about how it's nervy and it's nervous in there. It's nervous. We need to be as loud as they were for 90 minutes, for every 90 minutes for the rest of the season. I've been back and forth on this because, a lot of the times when we're not playing great and we're not, it doesn't really look good on the eye, and we're struggling to create, and Odegaard or somebody will do one of these. It's like, yeah, give us, it's a give and take, right? Of course we're there to support. And of course, I'm sure the noise is great, most of the time. But you got to read the room when you're doing this and you're playing like shit, you got to read the room. Sometimes we need to see something beautiful, something energetic, something intense, so that we can reciprocate that back. If Arteta is feeling super nervy and pacing on the sideline and he's got his hands behind his back and he's wringing his hands, then the players are going to feel that same shit. They're going to be, and that's going to translate into the stadium. And so I think what we need from the fans in this one is, after North London Forever, just be loud for 20 minutes. Just like for the next 20 minutes, right after North London Forever, just be crazy. And I think that we can, with that intensity, overwhelm Fulham right out the rip and get a couple of early goals, which would just be, that would just be so amazing. But I think that, in spite of the Victor Gyökeres pass on Saturday versus Newcastle. In spite of that, I thought he played well versus Atletico. I thought he was very good. I thought we had a lot more control when he was in the game as opposed to when Jesus came in. I understand, obviously, we're rotating and, we've been playing a million games and everybody's tired. I get all that, and I think that is why he came off early in that game. I would not have taken Gyökeres off in that game. But I do think that he's definitely raring to go. 19 goals. I think he's going to score in this one as well. I think we need to make sure he's got the service, to make sure he, gets opportunities, and I think he'll put them away for sure. So I'm looking forward to it. I definitely want to see Gyökeres start from the off in this one, and we need to get him into shooting positions. There's a couple of times I've seen where Odegaard has spurned the pass, or maybe even Saka has spurned the pass. We haven't seen enough of Saka, obviously, recently because of the injury. And, I need, for the end of the season, for the rest of the season, I need the Eze, Saka, Gyökeres trio to come together, like the Beatles right now. You know what I'm saying? And I think Saka's got something for us. I definitely think he needs to start this game. He needs to start the game on Tuesday, and it's time. It's just time for the star boy to step up and be the star man. It's time for the star boy to become the star man and win us this league, get us over the line. And I think that he can do. I think it's in there. I think that the potential for him to do that is there. We've seen it before. We've seen him do some amazing things, of course, in an Arsenal shirt, and we absolutely, unequivocally have to see more of that in the run-in. And so I think that if we can get Timber fit as well down the right-hand side, and yeah, there's an argument that Ben White should start with Bukayo Saka because that's an old relationship that we've seen a lot of success with in the past. I just don't think that, I guess Saka's definitely going to work better than Madueke on the defense. He's shown that as well to help Ben White out. But if Mascara's behind Saka, he'll just have the freedom to be what he is and to do what he can do without really worrying that Ben White's going to get smoked behind him. And so I really hope that Saka can have a standout performance and really, show his quality in this run. And he's going to be very, very important in this game. So I think that we got to obviously we do go down the right-hand side a whole lot. I need Victor and Eze and Saka to find that telepathy. I need them to find that telepathy. And I think that we've shown that we can play some nice intricate stuff, especially when Eze's cutting in on the left and we give him room to work, coming in from the left-hand side, which I'm just praying that we get to see that. And if we don't, all right, okay, I think we'll still be all right. But I think at our strongest, we could definitely, with the front six of Rice, Subi, Odegaard, Eze, Gyökeres, and Saka, we can do some damage on Saturday for sure. And I would love to see it early, but who knows? Who knows what Arteta will do? If Calafiori is fit, he might come in to this one as well. And so it'll be interesting to see, obviously wait for the press conference, wait for the lineups, to really kind of solidify what I think is going to happen here. But, at the end of the day, we 100% have to be locked in on this one. Yes, the records and the form and all this kind of intricate details are on our side. For example, Alex Iwobi's a doubt. Kenny Tete is a doubt. Fulham have not scored an away goal in 3 games. Fulham have never won an away game versus Arsenal in like 20-something odd attempts. Or maybe that's just in the Premier League. Fulham have never won at Highbury, and they've never won at the Emirates. So yeah, these kinds of things are in our favor, but I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to rely on that too much. Wow, the odds the odds are crazy for this one, so you're not getting any value on taking an Arsenal win. I'll tell you that for sure. Um, yeah, just looking at this packet that I've run at some of the different stats and stuff. Um, we've broken an all-time single season record for corner goals, so I wouldn't mind seeing a corner kick goal, get Big Gabrielle in there as well. And if we do that early, I think we can absolutely, control this game and get a nice 2-0, maybe even a 3-0. I think that if the crowd is there for that 15 minutes after we sing North London Forever, and we get a goal in that first 15 minutes, and then continue to press on. That's the thing that I think will help the crowd and will keep the kind of nervous energy is once we score, we keep going. We don't sit back and we don't just accept the 1-0. We got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And, I think at 2-0, it won't be as nervy, and it can be more like a party atmosphere like we definitely have to have on Tuesday. So I think that this game, I mean, the importance cannot be understated, of course, and when you're going for a Champions League and Premier League double, these are the things we have to deal with. We absolutely unequivocally have to put so much pressure on Man City and go 6 points clear. That's the only outcome that's acceptable, because we're this close. If we can just push Man City all the way, I got an inkling that they'll drop points in one of these games. It could be on Monday. So we absolutely have to put that pressure on them. There's no more excuses. We got to win it all. And so to do that, I think once again, I'm still calling for the same mentality from Mikel Arteta. I'm still calling for him to say, look, this is what you guys have worked your whole life for. You guys are going to go out there and win. You guys are the best team in the country. You're the best team in Europe. You guys are capable, more than capable, and you will unequivocally go out and win this game. Once again, that needs to be the win-win for the Gipper. The same that I called for versus Newcastle, the same that I called for versus Atletico. And I think they will. They normally tend to respond to the things Arteta says, and I hope that he's all week long giving them the encouragement and the just a prolonged win one for the Gipper speech where it's like, man, got to get us in the right mindset. And I think that it's a very good thing that the game is so soon. It's such a quick turnaround after all the bullshit on Wednesday, so that we're not dwelling on the fact that the refereeing stuff and the contentious decisions and all that, and we're just go again and then go again and then go again. I think that's important, to kind of erase the mental frustration, obviously, that was at play in Spain. And I think that that's going to benefit us, even though obviously there's a lot of controversy around Man City wanting to change their fixtures. Obviously, I don't even think we asked to switch fixtures around. The whole Paris thing, and I think that in the end, we, if Fulham do come with an absolute disgusting, stinky low block, which they might do, many people do versus Arsenal. Again, getting a set piece in early could unlock the game. Also, if we can get, Sandberger and Lukic, if that's who's going to play in the midfield, if we can get them, running all around the place, get them on yellow cards, we can really get at this Fulham team, I think. And I think that it's going to be a good day. The thing is, who's going to play? Who's going to play? This all comes down to Mikel Arteta. It comes down to, the mentality that he is going to be able to put forth through the whole game, through the week building up to the game, and as we get into the game, because like I said, the mentality and the feeling in the stadium comes from the top down. So if Arteta has just massive energy, just absolutely up for it, excited, confident kind of energy, we'll see that in the team. We will see that in the team. And we got to get off to a fast start in this one. Um, it would be disaster to have to slog this one out and just get over the line with a 1-0. That would be really tough, both mentally and physically, having to host Atleti on Tuesday in once again one of the biggest. I mean, and I'm glad that I keep saying this. I'm glad it's a blessing that I keep getting to say this. One of the biggest games in Arteta's career, one of the biggest games in the Emirates era history. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to be. Like, yes, there's pressure. Yes, it's stressful. Like, I'm getting gray hair watching all this shit. It's stressful, of course, but this is where we want to be. This is the pressure we want to wear like a blanket, because it means we are competing at the highest level. We're competing for top honors. This is what we want. The pressure, the nervousness, the energy, the intensity, it comes with the territory. It comes with striving to be a champion. We want that. We want to embrace that. We want to become that. Let's become that pressure and put it on them, put it on Fulham, put it on Atleti. We want to bring in all the hate, all the Arsenal derangement syndrome, bring it all into us, and then put it back on everyone else. I mean, if we can get a statement 3-0 here, like if we can really, really put pressure on City, a couple of goals, even if we win 2-0, a 6-point gap and a 3-goal difference is I mean, that's healthy. That's healthy with 4 games left for City to play. 5 games left for City to play, I should say. When it first came to, okay, it might be a shootout for goal difference, I was like, all right, I'm worried, but then Man City's lackluster 1-0 versus Burnley, and then they left it late versus Southampton. Maybe it's copium, from all the trauma, but that, is Man City just gonna turn it on and win 5-0 in every game? I don't think so. I personally do not think so, and so we have an opportunity here with the easier schedule and starting with Fulham. If we can really, really put some pressure on City for their game on Monday, I think Everton might have something for them. I think Everton might have something for them. So, like I say, it's a massive, massive opportunity here for the Gunners in this one to go 6 points clear. No, it's not going to be easy. I'll tell you that much. It is not going to be easy, but I think we can do it. I think we can get it over the line. And I think that once again, it's going to come down to moments. It's going to come down to who's clinical. And, at the end of the day, we just got to want it. We just got to absolutely, believe that we are the champions already and that we're just going out there to accept the trophy. That's where the mentality needs to be. That's where it needs to be, because we're just here to accept our trophy. We're here to pick it up. And the only way to do that is to absolutely be locked in from the beginning, from the very beginning. Oh man, if we just get a fast start in this game, But of course, Arsenal like to make it nervy. Arteta likes to go with the slow build, the slow burn. Trust me, it's been a slow burn from Mikel Arteta, and I've said all along that eventually I feel like he could get it over the line, and I'm hoping that eventually has arrived. It's gonna be nervy no matter what we do. I feel like as long as it's in the balance, there's going to be nerves. There's going to be stress. but just a huge man, just a big early performance. Get in a couple of goals early would just be so massive for everything going forward, for the morale, for the momentum. It'd just be so big if we just smash Fulham with the 3-0 win. Going into Tuesday would be absolutely incredible. And honestly, I think that there's if we want to look at it conversely, if we don't, if we drop points here and Man City win, and it's this could be very, very negative going into Tuesday. So the importance of getting this result over the line cannot be understated. Cannot be understated. And I think that was reflected in the way Arteta handled the game on Wednesday. Obviously, he's always the game management type, the one that's going to be looking at the big picture. And he doesn't do everything that I want him to, of course, and so we'll see. We will see. It's all going to depend, of course, again on personnel. Who's available? If Timber is fit, I want to see him. Obviously, he's not going to start. Arteta doesn't really do that immediately when players come back, get them into the starting lineup, but please don't play Ben White. Just don't play Ben White, please. Just please play Mascara. Honestly, I would rather see Ben. If we have to see Ben White, I would rather see him in this game and then let Mascara play against Lookman in the second leg on Tuesday. But Arteta seems to have his man. But if Timber is fit, I want to see him for at least 30 minutes in this Fulham game. Want to see him for at least 30 minutes in this game. But all in all, yeah, I think that if we just do our bread and butter, if we just do what we're good at, press them high, force long balls, win the second one. But it's all about speed and precision going forward. If we keep pulling up and letting Fulham get set, like we've done a lot this season, could be a long day. But, with Eze and Saka in there, we tend to counter and to go forward quicker. Eze likes those incisive passes. And so if we can just one step quicker in the transition, one touch quicker in the transition, I think we can absolutely destroy Fulham. And it's 100% what I would love to see. But, of course, I'm going to sit here and say, and say, we're definitely going to do it. I want us to do it, but it's still going to be nervy. It's always going to be nervy. That's Arteta's call sign, of course. So we shall see. Like I said, it's all down to Mikel Arteta and, what he's telling the players right now, what he's getting across in the dressing room. Obviously they've probably traveled back already, had a day of rest. And so the training sessions, maybe one or two that they get, going to be very, very, very important. Obviously, because they probably won't get another training session after this game. Actually, you know what? They're not traveling. They're not traveling because it's the home game. So that's not true. Yeah. So Atleti won't get as many training sessions in between. So that's fine. That's why we've gone undefeated in the Champions League and gotten all the way to this point. I know we've had an easy run or whatever, but we deserved it from winning all the group stage games, and getting these second legs at home have been very, very important, I think, in the Champions League for the way we've approached it. And it lends itself to the way Arteta wants to approach these ties. And so, of course, the next 72 hours, the next, whatever it is, 80 hours, let me do some better math. It's 96 hours from now, we will be at the end of the second leg and hopefully into a Champions League final. But of course, we have this game to contend with first. These are the games we want. This is the pressure we want. Of course, when you're going for two trophies at the same time, you just got to risk it, man. You just got to risk it for the biscuit. And so I hope and pray that we get to see the Death Squad. Probably won't, but we might. So yeah, that's it for the preview. I think we're going to lock it off right there. Certainly been a good one. Go ahead and get your score predictions in down below. Get your comments. Who you think's going to win? Who you think's going to score in this one? How are we going to do it? Of course, make sure you are liking and subscribing here at the Cup Chasers. It does help push us out to all the new viewers. Share it across your socials. And, of course, get that notification bell on so you know when we are back live. Of course, I'm not sure about the watch along for this game. We might be doing it. We may not. Depends on what we got going on afterwards on Saturday. So make sure you're locked in with that notification bell. Once again, I do appreciate everyone that's been here, and you. We'll see you next time.